Breaking today, Invictus Games organisers delighted that one Meghan Markle didn't show up for the big one-year countdown in Birmingham. I found this reporting absolutely fascinating because I thought that you would want a little bit more stardust than Prince Harry and his weird PDA with Alison Hammond, but no, there is a real desire within the Invictus Games to move the sideshow away from it becoming the Markle Games. And Rob Shooter reports that the organisers were delighted. He writes, Prince Harry arrived in Birmingham without Meghan Markle by his side, and insiders tell Naughty But Nice that behind the scenes, some Invictus Games organisers quietly welcomed the last-minute change. Meghan had been expected to attend the one-year countdown celebration, but pulled out just days before the event. Harry ultimately flew solo, and sources say his solo appearance made for a smoother, more relaxed day. There was a sense of relief backstage, one insider said. When Harry comes alone, the focus stays exactly where he wants it, on the veterans, not on the media frenzy that can surround a royal couple. Everyone could relax and let the event shine. A second source says Harry has earned a reputation as one of the easiest high-profile guests organisers work with. He's incredibly low maintenance, the insider says. He'll happily change plans, stay alone with athletes, and go wherever he's needed. The whole atmosphere feels lighter when it's just Harry. By contrast, another insider says Meghan's appearances often require, this is an understatement, far more coordination. Her visits usually involve extra security meetings, tighter schedules, and constant last-minute adjustments, the source explains. With Harry on his own, everything is refreshingly straightforward. The team can focus on delivering a great event instead of managing endless logistics and drama. Don't miss a single update on the stories that actually matter. I'm breaking down the news every day, so make sure you subscribe to never miss a beat. Click that subscribe button right now. Royal YouTube sensation p-dina with me. P-dina, look, that may all be true, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there is a growing view within Invictus that Harry is actually becoming a massive drag on the event, that they want another patron, that they believe someone like Princess Anne or Zara or Mike Tindall would actually be far more appropriate for the goals of the Invictus Games. While I completely understand that Meghan is a total nightmare to deal with, there was no excitement about these pictures. These pictures didn't make any front pages of the newspapers. They weren't being shown all over the websites around the world because Harry no longer has any glamour attached to him. And it's in stark contrast, for example, with William and Catherine's appearances, for example, at the Polo and at Wimbledon, which still did come with a real feeling of stardust. So while I completely understand why the Invictus Games organisers were relieved that Meghan stayed away, do you understand what I'm saying? That it still actually means there's a real gap here for Invictus in terms of trying to deal with how they're going to put on a big show if Meghan and the children are not going to be part of it next year, which was the original plan. If you want more hard-hitting Harry and Meghan coverage like this with the double standards called out, hit subscribe right now and turn on the notifications. Dan Wootton Outspoken has no spin, no bias, and no censorship.
Right, and I think it would have been a great opportunity for Meghan to show that she can be the complete opposite of what they expected her to be, what, they thought she was going to do. And because she couldn't even just show up to be in the background, to not make a fuss, to just be low maintenance, because she couldn't do all of those things, they had to be, happy that she didn't even show up. And, Meghan, this would have been a great opportunity for her. It would have been great for Harry to be able to bring in his family. And it is quite sad that his life is in such chaos and disorder that he can't even be alongside his wife with the children, which would make it so much more nicer, I believe, because then Harry can shine and then his family is there in the background supporting him. That would make it a lot stronger and a lot more, nicer to see that he is showing his children something nice. But you have right now something that is not good. I mean, Harry is showing up as a broken prince, as I always say, and he doesn't have this wholeness about him. You know what I mean? It just seems like it's like a little bit of him coming, and it's not nice.
No, 100%. He is a broken prince, actually, p-dina. I'm going to come to that in just one moment because he absolutely was proving he is a broken prince. But I do also think what he's rejecting is the life cycle of royalty. So why does royalty work, p-dina? Because as soon as the younger models, let's just be honest, and I'm pretty much the same age. Well, I'm right between William and Harry. So, I'm not being offensive here. But when you get into middle age, then you have your children who come through to give that new, younger, exciting feel. And we saw over the weekend, William and Catherine prove that. So they made their appearance together at the polo on Friday, and it was lovely. They're still a very attractive young couple because they're both very good-looking people. But then on Saturday, Catherine was at Wimbledon on her own, looking beautiful again. But on Sunday, the big event, the final, you see the children too. But because Harry and Meghan, for their own bizarre and weird reasons, have kept their children hidden away, their house, the Sussex house, I think looks really aging and looks really broken. And as you put it, I do believe Harry is a broken prince because this didn't get much pickup at all. But he actually mentioned Prince William during his UK trip. And I think that shows you how William is always on his mind. William's totally walked away. He just doesn't want to talk about Harry. He makes that abundantly clear. He actually says to the people around him, even close friends, look, I just don't want to talk about the guy anymore. Prince Harry can't actually keep William out of his mouth. Now, it was quite a sort of under-the-radar reference, but I picked it up. Let me just take you through the reporting from the Royalist. Harry appeared unable to escape the shadow of the brother he famously wrote about in Spare. Hoping to reset a troubled UK trip, the Duke of Sussex visited Birmingham's Children's Hospital, where a conversation about football with a young patient unexpectedly brought William back into the spotlight. After telling 12-year-old Alec Hill that he used to be an Arsenal supporter, Harry asked the young football fan, "Who do you support?" When Alec revealed he was an Aston Villa fan, Harry appeared quick to make the connection, replying, "Aston Villa. My brother supports Aston Villa." The Duke then continued to talk about the club's Europa League triumph, a victory that his brother publicly celebrated earlier this year. And p-dina, look, it's a small example, but do you understand the point that I'm making? Harry knows that he forever lives in the shadow of Prince William, and he's sad about it. He's bitter about it. So he does keep on bringing everything back to William and Catherine, whereas William and Catherine have just made the decision to move on and have a clean slate. Which is why I think, to go back to your point, he is a broken prince. I really feel we saw that over this visit.
Absolutely. And, trying to make that connection to his brother, I think makes Harry feel like he's still there. He's still along, the side of his brother. But yeah, we know he's not. And I think this just shows you that his brother is always on his mind. He wants to be more like his brother, to be more aligned with his brother. And he could learn a lot from his brother. But, Harry is just in a position now where he doesn't know if he's coming or going. His life is so chaotic. He doesn't even represent well because he's not even someone that can even be seen with his brother right now. So you mentioned him, but we know how your brother feels about you. And like, why even mention it at this point? I think he just doesn't know what he is doing right now. Harry just seems like he is this man that is trying to find an end somewhere, whether it's mentioning his brother or, showing up without his wife and never seeing his children. He's just going with the chaos at this point, and nothing makes sense with Harry. He's trying to find himself like lifted up, but he will never be lifted up because his life is in chaos. He's broken. He's in a position now where he needs true guidance and clarity of where he is in his life, and he doesn't know anything about his future. Is in a disarray right now, like what's going to happen with his life now in California. And he's wanting to now come back to the UK, I hear. But this is just what we're seeing, and this is what it is. Harry is completely out of his depths with everything because he doesn't have the people around him that can help him. He's in an elevated status as someone who is a prince, but he doesn't have the people around him to help guide that true uniqueness about who he is. And so now it's just completely chaotic. And I'm scared for his future, to be quite honest. It just seems like a rough shot. We don't know what is going to happen.
Chaos and disorder. Those are the damning words echoing behind the scenes of Prince Harry's most prized project, as the reality of his crumbling brand finally catches up with him. Today, we are exposing an absolute bombshell from the Invictus Games one-year countdown in Birmingham, where backstage staff reportedly did the unthinkable. They didn't just accept Meghan Markle's last-minute cancellation, they actively celebrated it. For years, we've been told that the Duchess of Sussex brings the essential stardust to these events. But according to internal leaks and major royal insiders, the professional organizers behind the scenes were actually filled with sheer relief when Meghan pulled out. While Harry flew solo, trying to put on a brave face. His erratic behavior and bizarre public admissions have left commentators branding him a deeply broken prince. Stick around, because we're breaking down the massive operational nightmare that follows Meghan everywhere, the telling moment Harry lets slip his permanent obsession with Prince William, and why top-tier organizers are quietly plotting to replace Harry entirely. When Prince Harry arrived in Birmingham for the official one-year countdown to the 2027 Invictus Games, royal watchers were stunned to see him stepping out of the vehicle completely alone. Meghan Markle had been fully expected to attend, but pulled out just days before the launch. Now, the mainstream media tried to spin this as a scheduling conflict. But the real story, reported by prominent industry insiders, is that behind the scenes, the entire Invictus team quietly breathed a massive sigh of relief. Backstage sources openly confessed that when Harry travels solo, the entire operation becomes refreshingly straightforward. One insider stated flatly that the whole atmosphere feels instantly lighter when it's just Harry. He's cooperative, stays alone with the athletes, and goes wherever he's needed. But the second Meghan is involved, the event transforms from a military charity into a high-stress Hollywood production. The staff in Birmingham didn't want to manage endless personal drama. They wanted to deliver a great event for the veterans. For the first time, the people executing Harry's projects are openly admitting that his wife is a major operational liability.
No, indeed, because of course, p-dina, this trip has been, I think, such a disaster on so many levels. They knew they had to do it because, of course, they were coming to Althorpe, we believe, to secure the footage or the stories for the 30th anniversary projects, likely a documentary planned for next year, and they need the money out of that. But at the same time, it makes a complete mockery of all of the security claims that these two have made for so many years. And p-dina, remember, I have always said, I have long said for about the last year or 2 years, trust me, there is a way that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle could fly into the country with their children, be totally protected, not be photographed at all, see the king, get to Balmoral. I always said it was completely possible. Now, as it turned out, they did it at Highgrove, but it was completely possible. High-profile celebrities, p-dina, do it all the time. But unfortunately, Harry and Meghan are now stuck between a rock and a hard place because it's like, well, what, you did come in and it was totally fine and you didn't have security, so what, you're going to continue this battle? Why? You said you hate the UK. You said you didn't want to have an official role here. What do you want? Do you know what I mean? Do you want a private life where you're safe and you can come and where you can see your friends and family? Or do you want the security so that you can undertake formal duties, in which case you've got to undo the entire Sandringham Summit, which no one wants and there's no public demand for, so it's not going to happen.
Right. Like he undermined his own situation. Like, they did go to Highgrove, everything was fine. And once again, Harry's life is in disarray. And I just don't know how he can say anything ever again about his security, because we see that there's not a problem there. I don't know what's next for Harry and what he is going to do, but he needs to get a plan. Somebody needs to come and rescue this man. It's an emergency. Like, what in the world is happening with him at this point?
Well, I know, because p-dina, there's also massive financial implications from the week. I mean, I don't think enough people are talking about this. Harry is such a man-child. He was just like, oh, I had my meeting with David Sherborne and, I'm just not going to think about the court case. No. This is not just a court case. This was the case that you staked your reputation on, and you were completely misled by liars, by criminals, by phone hackers, by people who tried to destroy me, so I know exactly how terrible they all are. And the consequences are real, because there are obviously real financial consequences, but there are also real reputational consequences. And just because King Charles granted you this meeting does not mean that those reputational consequences have gone away. I mean, I was very struck by this week, p-dina, the Times, which is considered the sort of establishment newspaper in the United Kingdom, the newspaper of record, actually suggesting that Harry should lose his title as a Councillor of State. Now, that's something that someone like me, p-dina, has called for a long, long time. But the Times newspaper had never called for this. It was as a direct response to his truly deranged public statement in the wake of losing that case, where he accused the judge, the King's judge, a highly respected judge, by the way, Justice Nicklin, who is likely to become a Supreme Court justice at some point, of being responsible for a whitewash. And this is the argument from the Times newspaper. And again, I just want to stress to everyone, it's not something that you wouldn't have heard on this show before, but it's because an establishment newspaper in the United Kingdom is now officially making the argument. They're not bringing someone in like they sometimes do, like Tom Bower, to make the argument. This is an official editorial coming from the Times of London. So I'm just trying to paint the picture of why that is particularly significant. And I just want to read what they said, p-dina. Rather than accept the considered opinion of a British judge, just as he did with previous proceedings which found in his favour, Prince Harry responded in a style all too familiar, lashing out with high emotion and unproven accusations. In a joint statement with Baroness Lawrence of Clarendon, whom he was said to have encouraged into the case, he described the result as a, quote, complete and obvious whitewash, but sadly not altogether unexpected. And the exoneration of the male is shocking and totally unwarranted. Yet it would seem Mr. Justice Nicklem simply sought to do his job diligently and forensically by examining each claim on its evidential strength rather than making generic assumptions. Prince Harry, not for the first time, has displayed little sense of the gravity of his words and actions. There will now be hearings as to costs, which could result in a sizable financial burden on claimants. Furthermore, in impugning the integrity of a member of the British judiciary, the Duke of Sussex has smeared the very legal system that is administered in the name of the Crown, although independent in its operations under the authority of his father. This is regrettably part of a pattern. Although often professing a desire to escape from the royal drama, Prince Harry appears addicted to generating it. His explosive Oprah interview was followed by an accusatory memoir spare and a long battle with the Home Office over his security, in which his claim was last year dismissed by the Court of Appeal. More recently, with his chaotic signals over a possible stay in Buckingham Palace in the thick of a court case, he has yet again risked embroiling the king in constitutionally embarrassing positions. It need not be so. Many people would understand if Prince Harry wished to pursue a truly private life, in which he quietly sought happiness and steadily rebuilt his damaged family relations. It is welcome news that he and his wife have been able to bring their children to see the king for the first time in 4 years. But in the face of his seemingly strong desire publicly to confront, oppose, and malign the institutions of the British state and their decisions, his constitutional role within the UK should not continue. He remains by law a Councillor of State, although he is prevented at present from performing that role owing to not being a working royal or living in the UK. Further legislation should be considered to remove the title entirely. As the late Queen made clear when she gave her blessing for her grandson and his wife to depart royal life, no halfway role is possible. While Prince Harry may often seem confused about that, Britain should not be. And p-dina, I don't think we are. I don't think anyone wants Harry to have a formal role. I mean, this guy is so deeply unpopular now. And it's actually only really the mainstream media that in a lot of ways have been trying to get him back, trying to go with this Project Thor. But actually, I think the British public have made their decision, and the decision is we don't want him to have any formal role whatsoever. And so I think what was so astonishing about this p-dina was the fact that a relatively sympathetic newspaper, I mean, you saw the Times having no issues with the private reunion, for example, with King Charles actually saying this title has to go.
But this relief highlights a much deeper structural crisis for the Invictus brand. While the organizers were happy to avoid the headache, Meghan's absence stripped the event of any major global media equity. The images of a solitary Harry failed to make the global front pages. The public glamour is completely gone. And it stands in brutal contrast to what went down just days prior with the real working royals. We saw Prince William and Princess Catherine Absolute dominate the global media landscape with highly polished, universally loved appearances at the Polo and Wimbledon, showing off a vibrant, unified family unit. Because Harry and Meghan have chosen to keep their children hidden away in their Montecito mansion, the Sussex House aesthetic is looking increasingly isolated, aging, and broken. Prominent royal commentators are now pointing out that the Invictus Games are suffering a massive drag because of Harry's ongoing personal toxicity. Major stakeholders are quietly asking, how can a charity thrive when its founding patron is completely alienated from the British public? Internal chatter suggests factions are actively wishing they could pivot to a drama-free, highly respected working royal, like Princess and Zara Tindall or Mike Tindall, to restore true integrity and prestige to the Games. The true confirmation that Harry is operating as a fractured, isolated figure came from a stunningly telling slip of the tongue during his UK trip. Hoping to reset his public image, the Duke visited Birmingham Children's Hospital. While chatting about football with a 12-year-old patient named Alec Hill, Harry asked the young boy who he supported. When the boy replied that he was an Aston Villa fan, Harry instantly reacted by bringing up his estranged brother. Aston Villa. My brother supports Aston Villa. He then continued to talk about the club's recent Europa League victories, victories that Prince William had very publicly celebrated on social media.
Yeah. When you look at it, Harry does a lot of things. He goes off of his feelings, and it's all about his emotions. He's not living in the adult world where you have to have proof, and you should not say negative things about, your father's courts. You should live your life based on the facts and information that a judge has to do what he does in terms of his job. It's not about their feelings on you. And this is why everything around Harry is so chaotic and there's so much drama. It's because there are emotions involved, and Harry needs a check. He needs to be shown that life is not going to revolve around your feelings and your emotions. That is why everything is so chaotic around him. And I believe the fact that he is living now in America, he himself said that is his new home a few years ago. That right there disqualifies him from being counselor of state. So there's justifiable reasons to remove it. And now that it's out there on the mainstream like this, let's get the ball moving and let's make some grown-up decisions and remove it and force Harry to live in an adult world with real consequences based on your choices, because it's the best thing for him. All they're doing is feeding the beast of this child. He doesn't have consequences to his behavior. It's making it worse. Stand up and do something so that he learns something about his choices. Remove it is what I say.
And none of his behaviour, p-dina, is appropriate. I mean, we're learning so much more. So Camilla Long is a highly respected columnist here in the United Kingdom for the Sunday Times. I mean, she's very much part of the mainstream media, but she attended Harry's trial. And she was there. She watched the judge. She watched Prince Harry give evidence. But she made quite a shocking revelation in her column about this case. It was headlined, "I've never seen a judge so angry as in Prince Harry versus the Mail. This was not just celebrity nonsense, and we should all be livid." So that's her message to the British people. But she revealed quite a shocking confrontation between herself and someone operating on behalf of Prince Harry. Now, I can only assume it's Liam Maguire, who is now Harry's main PR representative, but she doesn't name him. Let me just take you through what happened. So she writes, "A group of activists had persuaded themselves it was necessary to do almost anything, to bully whoever they wanted, to allege whatever they wanted, to use as much money as they wanted, to crush a decent paper because they disagreed with that paper politically and therefore thought they had the moral high ground. No one was off limits, even journalists covering the case. On the first day of the trial, Harry's PR man," so again, I'm making it an assumption that it's Liam Maguire. She doesn't say that, but she says Harry's PR man rather than his lawyer, "swaggered up to me," so arrogance, "to tell me Harry didn't like the tone of one of my pieces. I had suggested the prince might be a liar. Who is Harry to enforce what is acceptable to think and what isn't? He doesn't even live here. If his team had time to try and bully me, what would they do to other more vulnerable people? The emotional weak celebs he lured into this case. Or Doreen Lawrence, what does her life look like now that a share of the £50 million legal bill is hanging over her head?" And we'll come to that. But p-dina, I just thought it was such an interesting insight into the way that Prince Harry, he actually, can we just say it, p-dina, he operates as a thug. He operates as like a mafia thug behind the scenes. And you'll note it's actually Camilla Long. And I know Camilla Long. She's a tough woman, okay? She's a tough woman. She's done the hard yards of journalism. But she used the word bully there. She used the word that Harry's team were bullying people. And she clearly felt bullied, because I guess it's quite a shocking thing. Someone comes up to you and says, "The prince doesn't like the tone of your piece." Well, too bad. Too bad. Right. We don't like the tone of you suggesting, that Catherine is a racist. It's outright. Right.
It's like, who are you? You big man child, I mean, it's ridiculous. Harry is just living in a fantasy world. He really is. He thinks he is someone who knows what he's talking about. He is the furthest person from any truth that I know, because he just lives in a life that is not even living on the same planet, because he thinks it's all about how he feels. Harry doesn't to understand, that there are places to say certain things like that, and you don't put that out there in the public domain that, you don't like the tone of something. I mean, who are you? You're somebody that doesn't even, have a real job. Like you don't even have money to even cover the cost of this whole case that you brought out. Like, you have created so many problems for so many people who should be listening to you. Like, the audacity of this man. Like, that's why I say, Dan, this man needs a serious smackdown, because he's emboldened to keep doing all the things that he's doing.
Royal YouTube sensation p-dina and other leading analysts instantly picked up on this. It seems like a minor, innocent comment on the surface, but psychologically, it exposes everything. Prince William has completely built a steel wall between himself and California. He has made it abundantly clear to close friends that he has moved on and doesn't even want to discuss his brother anymore. Yet, Harry literally cannot keep William's name out of his mouth. Even in a casual conversation with a child in a hospital, Harry is entirely incapable of escaping his brother's shadow. He is bitter, he is sad, and he is deeply aware of the massive status gap that now exists between them. To make matters worse, this entire UK trip completely obliterated Harry's long-running legal narrative regarding his personal safety. 4 years, Harry has fought the British Home Office in court, crying that it is far too dangerous for him and his family to set foot in the UK without royal-tier state protection. Yet, during this trip, he stayed at High Grove, traveled smoothly across the country, visited public hospitals, and attended public sports venues with absolutely zero security incidents. He proved to the entire world that his security demands are a total fabrication, undermining his own multi-million-dollar legal battles. For the first time in history, the Times of London, the ultimate British establishment newspaper of record, ran a prominent official editorial declaring that Harry's constitutional roles must be entirely stripped. They argued his erratic public attacks on British judges and constant constitutional embarrassment to King Charles mean further legislation must be introduced to remove his title as Counselor of State permanently. Prince Harry tried to use this UK trip to prove he is still a powerful, global royal force. Instead, he showed the world a chaotic operation where his own staff rejoice when his wife stays home, and a broken prince who is entirely consumed by the brother who left him behind. But what do you think? Are the Invictus organizers completely justified in wanting a cleaner, drama-free patron like Princess and/or Zara Tindall? Or does the charity still need Harry's name attached to it? Sound off in the comments below. I read and reply to as many as possible. If you found this unfiltered analysis valuable, smash that like button, share this video with a fellow royal watcher, and click on one of the videos on your screen right now to keep up with the absolute latest raw, uncensored royal news.